Kelly, there you
We
go.
are so blessed. Thanks, Michelle. Thank you so much, Deb. I love you too. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelly. I'm your reader today. And the theme for May 2021 is Holy, Holy Uprising. The topic for today is This Too is God. Our first inspired reading is from David R. Hawkins in his book, Power versus Force. In this interconnected universe, every improvement we make in our private world improves the world at large for everyone that lives, for everyone. Simple kindness to oneself and all that lives is the most powerful transformational force of all. And Michael Bernard Beckwith wrote in Spiritual Liberation, in God awareness, problems dissolve because there are no real problems. In the mind of God, there are only perfect patterns of existence and divine ideas. Let us affirm together with God awareness. I have no big problems. I tell my problems about my big God. That's awesome. And now it's my pleasure to reintroduce the joyful and beloved Reverend Kathleen.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. Thank you. It was beautiful. All right. Holy, holy uprising. I love the theme this month. And today, this too is God. This too is God. I know we often ask that when we know this truth about the oneness and the wholeness of God, and that God is omnipresent in every spot, right? And yet when things happen that throw us off base, we ask ourselves, this too is God? So that's what our topic is today. But I want to begin with a story. This is a story where the alarm went off one Sunday morning and the husband bounced out of bed, got ready, started getting ready for the day, and said to his wife, good morning, sweetheart. It's time for you to get up and get ready for church. And to that, she responded by pulling the covers over her head and mumbling. And so he sits down next to her and he says, honey, come on, you really must get up. We're going to be late for church. To this, she replies, but I'm not going this morning. And he said, what do you mean you're not going? You have to go. And she says, no, I don't. I'm tired and I don't want to go. And besides, no one will miss me. And also no one pays any attention to what I say anyway. And I think there are people who don't even really like me that much. And to this, her husband responds, well, honey, I can give you 3 really good reasons why you need to go to church today. First of all, people will miss you. And second, they do listen to you. And finally, you have to go. You're the minister. So I tell that story because, when I think about getting up on Sunday morning for myself personally, I am enthusiastic. I can't think of a day that I did not want to get up. And why? I have 3 really good reasons. Actually, I have more reasons, but here's 3 really big reasons. The first is, I love you. I love you, my beloved community, each and every one of you. And I love what we are doing together to co-create heaven on earth in a world that works for all. So that's number 1. Number 2, I love what I do. I love having the opportunity to spread a spiritual truth that has transformed my own life and that I have witnessed transforming the lives of others since I began in this teaching back in 1990. Yeah, I've been in it for a long time, and I've seen a lot of change in people's lives over those years in different spiritual communities that I've been part of. And then the third main reason is that I love Centers for Spiritual Living, the greater organization that we belong to. I love that they provide us resources, online opportunities to gather information and to grow in consciousness. I love that they continue to update our curriculum and offer new things. And I found out there's another new class out that's just all about spiritual mind treatment, and they're becoming more aware of what's going to be supporting people who have very busy lives too. So the more recent classes require less reading, and actually you do most of your reading and that kind of thing during class and the activities during class. So, I mean, I love that we are continually on the leading edge of what is important to transform the root cause of all the issues on the planet, which is consciousness, dealing with the cause. So let's go back to this idea about this too is God. It's always important to begin at the beginning, which there is one ultimate reality, one source, one life, one presence, one power that goes by many names in many different languages. And yet it is the one life, the one source that I call God, but I also call universal mind and infinite intelligence and love itself. That presence, because it is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, that means present in its totality everywhere, which kind of blows our mind because our five senses seem to tell us that everything's separate. And yet we know even from the studies of quantum science that this is an interconnected, unified field of one universal mind in which we live, move, and have our being. So it's not just the mystics that are saying it, the scientists are realizing it as well. So everything then is created out of that one substance, that one energy, that one intelligence. And so the unmanifest world and the manifest world is of that one, And so, yes, all that's taking place around us are manifestations of God. And here's the thing, this is what sometimes throws us off base, is Science of Mind, our spiritual teaching, teaches that because there is only one divine life, that we are pure spirit, we are made in its likeness and image, we are the intelligence that we use is the one mind, universal intelligence, omniscience, that is omnipresent. And our nature is love. And at the same time, we are given free will. We're given free will, and our senses can kind of trick us into thinking things are separate and that there's me versus you, or all of these scenarios that we've seen played out in our lives. So what happens then, it is our ignorance of our true nature, that idea, thinking that we're separate, getting fearful that somebody might get our stuff. Virgie was talking about our stuff. Well, that's one of the things that happens, fearful that somebody will get our stuff, or that maybe if we get more stuff, it'll mean that we're more important, or whatever it is. Our misuse of the law, which is using universal law, using our mind, the creative mind that we are given, from a place of fear, And when we use it from a place of fear, we create suffering. Because we are always in angst about whether the next thing that we want is going to be ours, or we think we'll never get it, or we think we have to get it from somebody else, or whatever it is. And it's a lack or a scarcity mentality, again, that's created by the misuse of universal law, the misperception of what we truly are and what life is. Yet even in the midst of all that is the presence of God. And I love Emma Curtis Hopkins' response to that when she gets in, she says, when you get in a state of doubt and fear and whatever, you remind yourself that this too is good, this too is God, this too is for me, and I demand to see the blessing in it, to help ourselves get a shift of consciousness out of whatever seems to be stressing us, whatever the suffering seems to be, to get us out of that mind state, which is reactor state, and back into the creative mind, into remembering who we are and remembering the power of our word, the power of our intention, and the power that we have to bring new ideas and to bring truth, heaven on earth, through us and as us. So we have a superpower. We have a superpower available to us. It's important to keep remembering that. It is a superpower, universal mind, which is our mind. And so it's important that we are mindful of where we are placing our mind at any point in time. Are we focused on thinking that on lack and limitation? Or are we focused on possibilities, being possibilitarians? I love that term, being possibilitarians. So what we're calling for this month then is a holy, holy uprising. Holy with a WH, that means whole, entire, total. And holy, again, that's just another form. Holy and holy are kind of mean the same thing, but that wholeness, that truth of who we are, the entirety of the divine. Uprising, an uprising in consciousness. Swami Byandananda or Steve Berman called it an upwising. Remember that? An upwising, an uprising, an uprising in wisdom, which is the root cause of a better world, a better life, a better world. It's important that we keep in mind that that's where it starts, is within. It's an inner work that we do that creates outer change. And so it's important that we place no limits on what is possible in the divine. Again, possibilitarians. Call yourself a possibilitarian to remind yourself that you live in a state of possibility. That's who you are in truth. That's your superpower. So God, as unlimited being, is a field of all possibility and all potentiality. We talk about that all the time, which means that we are as well, since that divine presence is omnipresent, right here where I am, right where each of us is. And so our spiritual practices then become the vehicles. Prayer, meditation, gratitude, visioning, all of those tools that we practice are the ways in which we align with that truth of our being, with that field of all possibility and all potentiality, drops away all the falsehood and gets us lined up with who we are in truth. And that means that we are preparing ourselves in consciousness for that evolutionary impulse that's already within us, which is to become freer, fuller, more expanded expressions of the Most High God. And here's the cool thing that happens. As we do that, we begin to be greater vessels, vehicles, or instruments of the very light and love of God, spreading light and love wherever we go, just truly radiating that. And I don't know about you, but I can see when somebody's radiating something. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their body language. That beautiful radiant energy is just so inviting and so almost intoxicating, but intoxicating in a good way to be around, because it transforms consciousness of all those who come into our presence. And so what happens then is we do our inner work, we begin to realize that externals are effects. They are the results of consciousness. And so if we want to change the effects, we have to change our consciousness, and we have to become greater vessels for the greater possibilities and the ideas in the mind of the divine that is our mind. We don't have to go out there seeking for it. It's already who we are in truth. We're like these points of consciousness in universal mind, inlets and outlets of divine ideas. And so then when we can see that our inner life becomes more real and bigger than our external circumstances. And that's why we can do that affirmation that Kelly led us in, which is to remember that I have no big problems. They're just effects. They're things that can be changed. And I know that the creative mind that I use, which is the mind of God, is more than that condition, can dissolve that condition, can transform that condition by transforming the mind. So I'd like to illustrate creative mind in process. And I love, again, the Optimist Daily that I get in my news, in my email every day, because it's full of all of the innovations and creative ideas that humankind is developing to support our planet. And this is one of the more recent ones. It was the researchers at the University of California had come up with this proposition. The proposition was to cover California's some 4,000 miles of canals. You know, they have all these canals that come from the high mountains where all the water is down into all of the deserty type areas of California, 4,000 miles of canals. And they proposed to cover them all with solar panels. Think about that, solar panels. And there's multiple benefits of that. Not only do those solar panels provide clean energy, but they save, they predict, or they calculate that it would save more than 65 billion gallons of water annually. And that's enough, they said, to irrigate 50,000 acres of farmland and to meet the annual needs of residential needs of over 2 million people, just by putting solar panels on top of the canals. In addition to that, the cooling effect of the water running under the panels keeps them cool in on those really hot days, and also when there are wildfires. The microgrid that are created by the canals offers energy resistance during wildfires and heat waves. And here's the other thing, using an existing infrastructure, which means using the existing canals to put solar panels on, will prevent 80,000 acres of farmable land and natural habitat from being used as solar energy farms. That's a no-brainer, right? Creative ideas, creative solutions. We use the same mind as those researchers. That same brilliance, that same creative genius is our mind. I love those examples. So it's important that we face the fear. And here's the thing. I know, I understand, because I struggle with it myself, but I know how uncomfortable it can be to get into conversations that are controversial, whether it's political conversations, whether it is conversations about racism, sexism, whatever it might be, all the different isms. While they can be challenging, you know, what I love about Centers for Spiritual Living, and we being a part of that, is that we're being proactive about those kinds of things, having the conversations, and every month in the diversity inclusion online Zoom programs that are open to all of us in the community, we can enter those conversations and we can learn, we can gather information about other cultures, other, you know, all the different things that are going on that can support us in being more compassionate and understanding and finding solution. So I'd like to illustrate an example of how this is happening on our planet right now. And this took place in June 2020. This was last summer. Many of you may know about this. A conservative Republican majority in the state of Mississippi worked together. So the Republicans, the majority Republicans, worked alongside with the Democrats to co-create legislation that finally eliminated the flag that they'd been using that had the Confederate symbol on it. And the Republican, this particular Republican, Representative Trey Lamar, who pushed for the flag change, said, "It was something I knew in my heart for a long time was the right thing to do." And the House Democratic leader, Representative Robert Johnson, said the vote and the discussion that led up to it, all of the discussion about the effects that having a Confederate flag has on the Black American community. He said that conversation led up to help bridge racial divides within the legislature. And he said, "Some of my white colleagues have begun to understand and feel the same thing that I have been feeling for 61 years of my life. Compassion and understanding, yes, taking place in the political arenas." And Mississippi, by the way, was the last state to finally get rid of the Confederate flag. Those symbols of a past that create a lot of distress to see those symbols posted and as as a state symbol. And so I'm just so grateful to know that these things are happening. And I think it's important for us to focus on some of these things that are happening, to realize there are changes taking place, even though we still see a lot of dissonance and a lot of misunderstanding, but to know that compassion and understanding and solution is possible. Remember, we are possibilitarians. So we face the fear of having those tough conversations, and we do the inner work to develop a heart of compassion and a desire to understand, and a memory when we come up to somebody who has a different perspective than we do, that yes, this too is God that is standing before us. This person is the life of God. Their opinions may be different from ours, and we may think that their opinion is really harmful. However, if we continue to bump up against each other instead of look for solution, we're going to be at the same place where we've been for a long time. So it's really important to be willing to listen and to share our perspective authentically, and then work towards solution. And what I love is, again, our spiritual tools that we have to transform our own consciousness, to prepare ourselves. Spiritual mind treatment to me is la creme de la creme. It is a way in which I walk my own mind through spiritual truth, from what God is to realizing I am that, and then using the possibilitarian nature that I have, using my superpower to transform my own consciousness and to call in a higher level of consciousness of my fellow humans on the planet. So ultimately, love is the answer, right? We say that all the time. Understanding is the answer. And love is the universal solvent that dissolves all problems and reveals solutions. And then again, it's just this reminder of how powerful our spiritual practice is, and how powerful attaining a state of love is. It goes back to the work of David Hawkins. He calibrated human consciousness from its lowest, which is shame, which is calibrates from 1 to 20 on his scale. He kind of made an artificial scale to go with each level of consciousness from 1 to 1,000. And 1,000 is the highest, which is enlightenment, Buddha, Jesus, think of those high vibrational people. And he found that higher consciousness radiates, we've just talked about that, a beneficial and healing effect on the world, not just only in our immediate surroundings, but throughout the entire field of human consciousness. So using kinesiology, muscle testing, he created a chart that describes all the different levels of consciousness and their worldviews. And then also he showed that love is more powerful than hatred. And here's what he found is that one individual at 500, which is the vibrational frequency of love, notice it's kind of halfway between full enlightenment and the lowest level of consciousness. One individual at 500 counterbalances 750,000 individuals who calibrate below 200. So 200 below is the negative range, and above 200 is the positive range. Counterbalances one individual. And when you get up to those levels of enlightenment, it's like millions of people that get counterbalanced. Love is more powerful than hatred. We need to remember that. We need to remember that. That is so important. And so bringing our love into any conversation is the most powerful thing we can do. And because of who we are and because of our dedication to our spiritual practice, we are changing human consciousness. We are changing the world. So I would like to conclude by just remembering the importance that in times of unrest, it's important for us to boldly meet the apparent absence of God with the truth of omnipresence. This too is good. This too is God. This too is for me. And I demand to see a blessing in it and look for the blessing and look for the solution. So as we grow in love and compassion, then we are literally, truly the solution itself. So let's do a practice that we've done before, and yet it's such a good one to develop compassion and love. It's from our Buddhist brothers and sisters. It's the loving kindness meditation. I think they call it the metta meditation. And this is in total support, Virgie and Social Justice Initiative Ministry, in total support of what you're asking us to do this week. And Virgie will tell you about that in a few moments. But it's a way of offering love to ourselves and offering love to others. So close your eyes if you would, get settled in, find a comfortable position, relax your muscles, and take a few deep breaths. And imagine experiencing complete wellness and inner peace, bathing yourself in love for yourself. Exhaling all tension out of the body and breathing in love. And then silently after me, repeat, may I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. And may I be happy. Then think of someone who might be suffering or angry or in kind of a divisive stance. And let's shower them with love. And so repeat after me in your own mind. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. And may you be happy. Breathe. And now we're going to be all inclusive of our whole planet. And repeat after me. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. And may we be happy. And I'm going to add to that, may we give and receive appreciation today. May we give and receive appreciation today. Let's breathe, take that in. Let's do what Marianne did. Let's tap our collarbones to get ourselves ready to open our eyes, come back to the room. And then say together, and so it is, namaste. Thank you, my friends. Have a beautiful day. And now I'm inviting Deb to come back again.